to and welcome Mr. Drury to item 11, but I'd like to have this wrapped up by 2:30 because Dr. Pearce has a commitment at 3, and he is prepared to wait for us to get through this item, and then we'll go into public excluded. That's my ambition here. So let's now go to item 11 in 3/4 of an hour on page 17, and there's some new paperwork coming, I think. And Mr. Drury, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It seems to be quite a while. I've always enjoyed these meetings, and I've missed some really good stuff, I'm sure.
You have. You have.
I have. Never mind. I'll have to live with it. I'll have to live with it.
You can watch the video.
Watch the video. Okay. So this is the adoption of the annual plan, so today we've got supporting accountability documents for the annual plan. We have an amendment to the long-term plan, which you're familiar with, and we then have the consultation document as well. This paper basically sets out the purpose of an annual plan, the need for a consultation document where there's material changes from the 16-17 figures from that set out in the LTP, and they have in this case. It alludes to the development of the annual plan and the workshops over February, and there were 2 in March, 1 in February and 2 in March. It also covers the need for an amendment to the long-term plan given the significant change in the level of service with the proposal for environmental flow purchase over a 35-year time frame. So that sets the scene. The approach we're going to take with the draft annual plan and associated documents is the same as the approach for the long-term plan. We will at the end resolve to adopt the supporting accountability documents for the annual plan, so there won't be a bound annual plan put out. That will be put out in June as a final plan. So the accountability documents, performance measures, which have been up in the workshops before, financial statements, funding impact statements covering rates and resource management charges. We've also got the proposed amendment to the LTP and the consultation document, and they'll all be resolved to be adopted individually. The second page of this report here alludes to attachments. Okay, attachments 1 to 8 haven't been altered; they're as distributed. Attachment 9, which is financial information, haven't been distributed, haven't been amended. Attachment 10. Rating impacts and funding impact statements. There is an amendment for that, is there not? Leanne? Sorry to interrupt, but the funding impact statement, was there not a handout for the funding impact statement? One sheet? Yes. We'll come back to that. And the resource management charges are as distributed. Attachment 13 is as distributed, and that's the report from PricewaterhouseCoopers. The changes today are in attachment 12 and 14, and they've been changed because of numerous discussions with Audit New Zealand, and as you're aware, the Audit New Zealand needs or is required under the Act to audit the amendment to the long-term plan and the reference of the amendment to the long-term plan in the consultation document. So that's where all the dialogues come about. This paper alludes to Audit New Zealand making best endeavours to get this audit done for today, and they have worked really hard late in the evening in many cases, but there's a number of LTP audits to be done, and we're somewhere in that pipeline. So today we have distributed to you an amended statement of proposal with track changes to give you an idea of the changes made through this discussion with audit, and also a consultation document which doesn't have track changes, but Drew will be in a position to take you through some of those alterations. So Mr. Chairman, I think if the other accountability documents are okay, which is your groups of activities and financials and funding impact statement, we do need to come back to, because there is one amendment there, Leanne, so if I could have that. And I think we'll concentrate on on the amendment, proposed amendments to the long-term plan, which is a document that's just been handed out. It's 4 pages long, and the track changes are set out there. So if you've got that in front of you, I will.
Before we go to that, I do have a question about attachment 3, the group of activities report. And as Councillor Dick and I raised at a previous meeting, we were going to suggest a different approach or some different language. And if you look at page 40 of, I'm looking at the pagination that's at the bottom right corner of these pages. It's the activity 3, water management. There's a page on that. And what we had suggested and what we had been discussing with staff was the very last item there that's in italics regarding the drilling program. It was our intent and our understanding that that language would actually read, if you go to the last sentence, prepare details of this program for consultation in the 2017-18 annual plan. Because the intent of the whole point of raising this was to try to get this planning moved closer by a year so that we could be more quickly into the actual execution of such a program. And so I'm not sure what at this point where the staff is on this issue, but I'm proposing that is the language that I think we were looking for, and felt that there was a broad enough support for it within the group here to proceed on that basis.
So you would change prepare details of this program for consultation
in the 2017-18 annual plan.
So
right.
That's all you're after there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I raise a point of process here, because we actually had a resolution by council. That resolution would have to be overturned.
I believe so.
It was specific.
I mean, if you wanted to compromise, you could say in the 2017-18 annual plan or the 2018-28 long-term plan. The point is that all it's been committed to is that in the coming year that our staff do the investigatory and planning work to be in a position to report to the council at the end of that work, and then the next council is in a position to decide to either go into consultation on the proposed program as a amendment to the long-term plan, or to leave it for another year and do it in the long-term plan.
Okay. I think we get that. It hasn't answered the question that's just been posed here.
I wasn't at. I understand there was some discussion at a regional planning committee meeting, which I didn't attend, and so it was subsequently there was a resolution of council.
So, and I don't recall the detail of the resolution, short of Leanne finding it. I guess I could offer a couple of comments. Is that, in essence, as Councillor Dick described, well, first of all, I had understood it was for the long-term plan, but I guess it's kind of academic as to whether it's the annual plan or the long-term plan. Next year, where in essence we're doing planning work.
I've been mixed up as to when the long-term plan period started.
Sure.
Initially.
So in essence, we're looking to go back and start the planning work in the new financial year. So there's not a major cost of service or level of service implication here, financial implication. And then subsequently you will either consider to consult on the annual plan or on the long-term plan. I just also want to get absolute clarity, perhaps from our perspective, that, or perhaps I'll say that we are proceeding in this area of work on the basis that this investigation, whether it starts in the 17-18 year or the 18-19 year, will take some years to run its course. So we're not proposing to do all of that work in year one, and that information would be used to inform policy development in the future. So not the current tank policy process that is underway and which council wants to notify policy on in 2017. This work would inform some policy development at some stage in the future. So that's the understanding that staff are working to.
It's my understanding too. I'm not sure whether Councillor Belford is nodding or not.
Well, I'm not sure why one would, if something surfaced in this process that was materially beneficial to moving the tank process forward, why would it say, okay.
And I guess I'm just making that comment because, like I say, the plan would not be to drill 10 wells in year one. It'll take a number of years to do that, and then it'll take a number of years or some time to work that information up and build it into our modelling. So this work would not be available in a time frame to support the current policy development work that's occurring in the tank process, which is due to notify policy next year.
Be optimistic about the tank process, but I'm not.
Okay, sure. Well, given our current time frames, it won't be available to inform that. If that changes, that may well change that.
Councillor Hewitt on this issue?
I'm concerned where this is going, because if we're looking to spend a whole lot of money, should it not be a community decision as to whether we do it on drilling or just get on and do the pre-feasibility for the water storage proposal?
It would be.
In Hiratonga?
So just to clarify, again, my understanding is that we are being asked, and we would in the next financial year, starting 1 July this year, undertake the planning work, so the where, the how deep, and the how much, and the who's sort of thing. So we would do...
For the water storage?
No, for the development of up to 10 wells or 10 wells across the Hiratonga Plain, and then in either the following annual plan year or the subsequent start of long-term plan, as the resolution indicates, the physical work would start to do the drilling. The money would be spent there. So next year is a planning desktop exercise, if you like. The actual money would be spent, and there would be a round of consultation associated with that in the development of the long-term plan for 18 to 28.
Because my understanding from people I'm speaking to in that area is that if there was a pot of money to be spent, they'd prefer to be spending it on water storage than on...
We're getting out of shape here. I mean, that'll happen at the time. I'm just wondering if the solution here is prepare the details, Barty Bar. Overturning that council decision seems to me quite an extreme step when people that were interested in this could still submit on this, even though it says 1828, and could agree or disagree, surely.
Well, I would imagine if by some remote chance Councillor Belford and myself are on the next council, then when it came to...
Are you declaring today too?
There's a remote chance that we would be promoting next year that it be considered as a
priority,
as a long-term plan amendment, and there's no resolution that can stop promoting such an idea.
No. Okay. And through the middle as well, I think.
Yeah,
okay.
if I might just be so bold, if I could get absolute clarity on what the final wording should be in that last sentence then, because I heard 2017-18 annual plan or...
To change that now, we will have to overturn a council decision.
Right.
So to me, that seems a very extreme step when people can still submit on this and should be encouraged to and tell us whether we got this wrong. That would be my viewpoint. We agree with them. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. No, because there's nothing to change here. To change this, we've got to change a council decision, which is a huge step for what?
Sorry, another topic. Are we able to ask questions on this list of attachments before we go on to this other document?
Yes, most certainly the attachments are as submitted, and they will come up for adoption as a supporting paper, so you need to be comfortable with them.
And can I check, is it possible to change wording at this stage, or has this had to go through audit? I believe this part hasn't gone through audit.
That part hasn't gone through audit, so feel free
So
to
we
change
still
them.
could.
Leanne will take it.
Could I've just got a quick...
This is not a council resolution.
no council resolutions. Quick list of things, if I may, Mr Chairman. If we turn to page 56 of the document, and there's a statement on the under significant issues of demand for less costly and faster consent processing. Applicants have been concerned about the length of time and cost of renewal of consents. And then it goes on under negative effects. The cost to HBRC and individuals of implementing RMA can be significant if not kept to actual and reasonable levels. It actually suggests that we're not actually processing within timeframes, which I believe we're 100% within timeframes, are we not? And that the cost actually can be significant even when it is kept to actual and reasonable. And that's the bone of contention, that the costs are high. So if that, I just think it's question whether it's misrepresenting what this council's actual position is.
We could put the qualifier in that we have a
We've got
impeccable track.
KPI over the page of 100%.
Yeah, so we have an impeccable track record in that regard. But nonetheless,
Yeah,
there are still those who are
Exactly.
concerned
Yeah.
about time and
Exactly.
costs.
Yeah. Otherwise, it puts the blame back on council for something that doesn't exist. And if I could actually go over to page 64 and ask clarification around the assumption that HBRC will not become involved in the implementation of the possible biosecurity strategy. I'm assuming that is correct, and why not?
For New Zealand.
For New Zealand, yes, but still we're part of New Zealand. Are we not having any input?
I think that the assumption underlying that is that council's really looking at financing its own activities within the region that it's identified, and hasn't been able to anticipate or plan for what may be required as part of a possible national biosecurity strategy. So if and when that was to happen, there would have to be some amendments.
But it just suggests that actually, no, you go and do what you're doing and we're ignoring it. It's not clear what our role is. Could we just tighten that a bit to make it?
What I suggested, we use the words that the Chief Executive said, because that's makes it clear. Because the sentence as it stands doesn't make sense.
Required to fund activities as a result of the implementation. No, that's the bike racks on the buses, so it's ours. Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, that's for on those particular buses that are being used, isn't it, Alan?
Smaller buses can't carry bike racks, but my understanding is that with the new contract they're going to upgrade those buses. I think I'm right. Do you know, Drew?
That was my understanding as well.
Yeah.
That's fine, it's just a clarification from my side, that one. And,
It has, but this is a long-term plan that was adopted 2 years ago, nearly 2 years ago, last year, at which time it wasn't that, so we could...
Could we have a footnote just establishing that now has been established?
Sure.
Two more.
that an assumption, or are we assured of getting that? Sorry, I should have my microphone. Is that an assumption or a...
Yeah, all these financial figures are an assumption. There's no iron guarantee.
So that just stays in there as
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Page 139, looking at the fact that there are some assumptions around Napier City on an area basis, why is that line blank?
It's to do with forestry, pest control forestry. There's no forest in Napier City. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, thanks. Could you put NA on that then? Yep.
Pest control forestry.
Yep.
If you had a line in there, I'd be stunned. If I had a figure there, I'd be surprised.
Yep, thank you for correcting me.
Councillor Hewitt, please.
Just to clarify, and I'm on the Apatuki scheme, page 21, with the rating review, which you've all heard me express huge concerns around, and I understand that although it says that a revised rating system will be implemented 2017-18 year, that is still subject to a discussion in our E&S committee in May. So just to confirm in this meeting.
That's my understanding as well, that there will be a...
That's what the wording says.
Yes. So there will be a paper brought back to that. So if there was to be a decision that from the E&S committee that didn't reflect what's in here, staff would include in the staff submission to the annual plan a correction to this.
Let's continue then. Mr. Drury, where to next?
We are. Mr. Chairman, there's just one amendment on page 134 that I need to draw your attention to. Page 134, to do with the Ruahapia Twyford streams and drains rating. It's the second line down, and as we read across there, you've got a figure under estimated rates revenue for 16-17. Second line down, that's 170,070. That figure should read 156,193. 156,193. It's
Which line are you on?
the second line down.
Page 134.
Yeah.
On 134.
Rotary Twyford.
Rotary Twyford, Hastings District, land value, rural, 170,070.
It's the third line in from the right-hand side.
178,780, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, good. It should be 156,193. There's been a double count with the line above. It's important to get the funding impact statement completely right for rates.
You get the chocolate fish that's following that.
Yeah, we need to find these. Okay. Right. That's that. So, Mr. Chairman, perhaps we could just spend a few minutes on...
Just a moment, Councillor Bevan.
On page 8, under performance targets for 2015-16, it's got develop a Hawke's Bay energy strategy with a draft strategy adopted by Council by March 2016. Now we haven't done it. What's the status of this if we haven't met our own target?
Well, the status is not achieved, but James can just give you an update on where
So
it's at.
not achieved by March, but the objective is to have a draft strategy before Council before the end of June, before the end of the current financial year. So I've got a staff member now working on that assiduously. We'll be pulling together the participants from last year's workshop to consider a straw person strategy to bring back to the council, plus a bit of a work program around the key issues arising from the workshop. So we still intend to bring one forward.
So do we need to make some note to that effect in here?
No, not if we intend. This would be reported through the annual report rather than this is the annual plan for the next year. So we should not need to require that to be carried forward.
Right, Mr. Drew. If you've got a question you need to come back to, we can do that too, of course.
Yeah, if we could just spend some time going through the proposed amendments, the handout that we've had there, which has got track changes in. It's relatively busy, but there is a handout that we're going to hand out that's got no track changes in, which I think could be useful, which should be to hand. But if we just... Yeah, the yellows and reds. Yeah, proposed amendments, Hawke's Bay Regional Council. I mean, the one you've got in your supporting papers, Councillor, looks a bit different to this, to be fair. So I'll just, if I could, run through some of the more major amendments that we've made over the last week, and with a number of discussions with audit. First major one is the free water of 30 million is actually 34 million. And it's so it's not 30 million over a 6-year time frame, it's 34 million over a 7-year time frame. And that was inherent in the financials when we studied the financials with HBRC. So clarity had to be gained on that, so the 30 million has been moved to 34 million. There's clarity on when the water or when the dam would be completed. That's 1920, and that's an assumption. And the volumes have been specifically referred to in the years in which they are proposed to be available from HBRC, so because they vary during the years. There's 8 million and 6 million and 4 million. So,
can I suggest you add the total 34 cubic metres in red, after that in brackets at zero cost, just to reiterate the fact that this is the stuff that's at zero cost. Otherwise people may get it mixed up with the stuff
It says that, doesn't it?
Says it
It says it up the top, but I'm just suggesting you say it again alongside the table line.
okay, I mean a lot of these points are clear, to improve clarity, and that is one. A number of changes have been made to dates, because the dates, if there were 6 years of free water, then the dates were 25-26 from when the council proposed to pay, and now that 7 years, that 25-26 has been moved to 26-27. So on the third paragraph down there, you'll see 26-27, and the document just follows through on that, and that's the same for the consultation document.
When did that water move in the first 2 years from 8 million and then 6 million? When did it move up from the 4 million that we'd previously been?
No, it was always 8 million and 6 million in the original HBRC letter provided to council. It always fluctuated. And the audit said we needed to clarify that, which was fine. Yeah.
Why would you need 8 million? You only need 4 million over years.
Same reason we need 4 in addition to the flushing flow. Some is good, more is better. That's the outcome we've been told.
See how it's been presented.
Yes, this is the way it's been presented. There's a paragraph put in there to clarify that the volumes that the proposal is about is in addition to the flush and flows. And we've always known that, but it just wasn't clarified in the proposal, and for sake of clarity we've put that in, and that's 1.3. And under 1.4, 1.4 there was the bottom paragraph there, the final words, a proxy value for the environment benefits delivered. That was said to be 15 million, but the environmental benefits are really only 7.6, because the difference between the 7.6 and the 15.3 is indeed energy costs. So that's not related to the environment. To clarify that, you'll notice further up the 52.2 has now become 44.5. In brackets after that, that 44.5 is exclusive of energy costs of 7.7. So we still get back to the 52, which was the revenue that HBRC would get if they sold the water. So the reason for that change was to put a proper meaning on a proxy value for environmental benefits delivered, not being 15 but 7, okay, 7.6 in this instance. The next one, 1.5, the final paragraph there, because we talk about increased distributions. I mean, the more water you sell, the more the greater the distributions to the shareholders, and that's the point being made here. But the last paragraph has been an endeavour to actually put some sort of value on that, or perspective. And it's stated these distributions are estimated to equate 18% of the revenue. Audit were happy to leave that in if Deloitte's, who are doing the peer review, could say that that figure was okay, was correct. But as we know, Deloitte won't be doing the peer review for another 2 weeks or so, so this document needs to be out well within that time frame, so that last sentence was deleted, but the point is still made in 1.5. If we turn to the next page, again, the very bottom, confirmation of when the dam is assumed to be completed, again for clarity, and the changes of years from 6 to 7 years tracking through again. The next page, this is under benefits of the proposal, and where there's mention of the draft concession deed, all references to the concession deed's been taken out of here, because the option B is not now the concession deed option. There's been clarity from HBRC through an email that provision in the draft concession deed is being rethought. It needs to be reworded and rethought through, so to refer to the concession deed when indeed the draft concession deed were being given notice that 4 million wouldn't be provided under the same terms and conditions.
Councillors and Paul, can I just draw your attention to 3.3 and make an amendment in the reference to the year 2025-24? Can you reverse that, please?
Yes.
Just so that you adopt the right information.
24, 25.
Thank you.
We're going forwards in time, not backwards.
Yep, good catch. Under 3.3, there's also been clarification of what the foundation water price is, because hitherto we haven't really stated it. It is as stated 70.5 cents for those years, and then 23.5 after that, adjusted to CPI, which is assumed to be 2% for the purposes of the model. Again, for clarity. The next one is 4.3. The audit felt that there should be some clarity on what this actually meant when reference was made to the statement of intent. And really that clause in the statement of intent recognises returns from council investment to be a number of things: environmental, economic and financial, and that's what that paragraph is trying to address. So that those additional words have been put in to clarify that. Under the risks of the proposal, audit believed that we hadn't set out that there would be a risk that if we wanted to sell the water, the 4 million water, we decided we didn't want to use it. They didn't feel as though we'd stated the risk that we would need to find a suitable buyer. So, I mean, it is always a risk until you find the buyer. It is always a risk.
So could we add in the word "not" in the last sentence?
That's right. That's what could not be found.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Could not be found.
May not be found.
Yeah, but this
May not be found?
Yeah, something like that. May not.
May not be
we
found?
have unemotive language and really holding the baby.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
I say that?
No, thanks for that. May not be found. And number 6, is option B. We now have 3 options, and that's set out in the consultation document. Option C, which we've discussed with audit, is a do nothing option, and of course there is always a do nothing option, but we hadn't canvassed that, so we now have option A, which is the proposal, option B, which you've read before, which is to buy the water at future market rates.
Well, it's not. It's actually completely different from the original concession deed proposal, which was the option to buy up to 4 million cubic metres a year, and not at spot price, but at foundation water user price. That's what their letter to us said. So this has been changed, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, unilaterally by HBRC, because this is not the original proposal, or
No,
anything even remotely resembling it.
It is not the original proposal, and what they have said, because now we are in negotiation with 2 parties, not just HBRC, and so we've been advised that that particular offer is no longer on the table.
So they have the right to withdraw it from the concession deed?
It's not being offered. It's not being offered by either of the other 2 parties, and wouldn't be accepted if we were to try and get it in. So the option then we then have is to assess year by year whether or not we want to purchase water for environmental enhancement, but not under a foundation water user agreement package.
Why did this change? I mean, it looks like we've opened a can of worms and now we've dug a huge hole for ourselves.
Well, I don't think we
pardon the mixed metaphor.
No, I think I get what you're saying. I think that really what we probably didn't appreciate clearly enough when they came through with the offer about the foundation water user agreement, or didn't appreciate right at that time, was that it wasn't actually an either-either scenario for council to consider. That effectively what they were doing was that the situation, the option that had been presented in the draft concession deed was no longer on the table, and I don't think we appreciated that enough when we gave you that advice. No, they didn't, but they have since.
Mr. Chairman, this is the issue that began to surface earlier today, that we have not focused on this agreement in over a year, and meanwhile HBRC is off negotiating its side of the bargain, and we haven't had any opportunity to consider whether, with all the moving parts of this scheme, whether that concession deed as drafted currently still makes sense to us, still includes or doesn't include items that we care about. And we're instead being told that HBRC can go off and negotiate to its heart's content.
We've instructed them to go off and negotiate.
Well, but meanwhile, we're not informed as to what all's open for negotiation. Is it the whole thing? Is it? We haven't had any look at this.
Why would we employ them to do it? We want to do it ourselves.
Well, at the end of the day, we have to negotiate with them, right?
Okay. We're not debating this here. Well, in this instance.
But we're being told, on the one hand, that at the end of the day, we have to enter into an agreement with HBRC via this concession deed, but at the same time, we're being told none of it's negotiable.
Well, no, you don't have to enter into an agreement with HBRC. That's completely up for, that's what's being publicly consulted on. And I think the other point to make is that other than the matters that you've made condition precedent for your decision, everything else was open for negotiation.
Can I just ask a matter of process? And Mr. Chairman, could you ask whoever's got the whistler to turn it off? It's very distracting.
Who's got the whistler?
Somebody's phone is constantly whistling.
No, I don't think it is. I think that phone's been turned off. Anyway, we're going to run out of time. We're going to run out of time here because Dr. Pearce has to leave at 3.
Now, can I
think we're going to unfortunately have to go into public exclude and deal with that issue, so he can go. Because this is clearly going to take longer than the next 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman.
Could I ask my process question?
Yes.
And that is the term sheet that we discussed and the concession deed that we actually saw within a workshop some time ago was a draft. It's never been signed. Is that correct? That's correct. So every point of it actually is open to agreement.
Absolutely.
And we have actually had some workshops on this since then and received information that would, and this morning I actually asked a question on this around the draft that it could change.
That's right.
And it was answered.
Yes, well, Councillor Dick.
I'd like to come back to this document and just say that the last section, financial strategy, makes no sense. It's highly confusing, and I believe it should be taken right out. What it does is it talks about targeted returns on proposed investments, listing Ruataniwha, Nauroro, etc. And down the bottom it says funding will be provided by drawing down on cash reserves set aside for investment, and then popped in the middle in blue there's some strange thing about HBRC proposes purchasing water. It's a big mix-up, and I just don't think any of it is necessary. Highly confusing at the very least.
Well, I think this whole thing gets more confusing, but I mean, a financial strategy set out in the long-term plan stated that there would be returns from council investment, including the return for 6%.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with this proposition?
Yeah, but what we have in front of us is that there could be some returns taken in for environmental purposes. So in some cases there may be some easing back to get environmental, economic and financial returns making up to 6%.
Well,
so that's what that endeavours to do.
That may well be, but this section would, if you want to make sure that people give up on this and don't bother responding, then leave it in there. I'm sorry.
Well, this has been passed audit a few times. We've made amendments. I mean, it has been before council a couple of times.
Audit needs auditing.
Look,
Just read the thing and see if it makes sense.
Councillor Hewitt.
It doesn't.
Just.
I'm in the sympathy box with Councillor Dick with regard to that blue paragraph at the bottom of the last page. I think the word foundation water user agreement is important. I've tried to bring to the meeting today the relevance of being a foundation water user, and I think that messaging should be consistent with any communication outside of here.
Okay.
I've got some more comments I'd like to
I know
make,
you have.
I'm very conscious of the fact that
we need to deal with that in committee issue, and it's unfortunate, but unfortunately we're going to have to deal with it. So I suggest we actually move into public excluded now for the next probably 30 minutes. Apologies to the gallery, but it is what it is, and we'll resume this discussion at 3 o'clock. So is someone happy to move us into public excluded?
Chairman of HBRC, Dr. Pierce.
Is you happy to move with that addition? We have a seconder.
Can I just suggest, and this is out of order, but that you could resolve that last section by taking out everything except leaving in the blue bit and just putting a title.
Hold that thought. Hold that
summary.
thought.
Summary.
Hold.
Because I'm not going to be here after 3 o'clock.
No, okay. A seconder for public excluded, please. I'll second that. You've got that. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carry.